But how do you distinguish this authentic recognition from the countless illusions your heart creates when it is desperate to believe in love? How do you know when you are encountering a true soul connection and not simply projecting your unhealed wounds onto another person who happens to be available at the right moment? This is the question that transforms everything, because the answer separates those who build lasting, conscious love from those who repeat the same patterns of dependency disguised as devotion. The distinction exists in three specific psychological signs that Jung himself would have recognized immediately as indicators of souls that are truly aligned, truly meant to journey together through the transformations that life demands. But how do you distinguish this authentic recognition from the countless illusions your heart creates when it is desperate to believe in love? How do you know when you are encountering a true soul connection and not simply projecting your unhealed wounds onto another person who happens to be available at the right moment? This is the question that transforms everything, because the answer separates those who build lasting, conscious love from those who repeat the same patterns of dependency disguised as devotion. The distinction exists in three specific psychological signs that Jung himself would have recognized immediately as indicators of souls that are truly aligned, truly meant to journey together through the transformations that life demands. The first sign is what Jung called synchronicity, but understand it not as mere coincidence. Synchronicity is the appearance of a meaningful connection between two events that are not causally linked by conventional logic. When two souls are genuinely meant to be together, something remarkable begins to happen in the fabric of their experience. You think of this person, and moments later they contact you. You have the identical dream on the same night without ever discussing dreams together. You speak the exact same words at the exact same moment and pause, both shocked by this simultaneity. You discover that you have had nearly identical experiences at completely different times in your lives, experiences that shaped you in the same way, taught you the same lessons, led you to the same spiritual understandings. These are not random occurrences that your desperate mind is forcing together to create meaning. Jung insisted that synchronicity reveals a connection operating at the level of what he called the collective unconscious, a deeper layer of mind that we all share, where individual boundaries dissolve and a larger intelligence operates. When two souls are truly aligned, they begin functioning from this shared field. They operate from the same frequency even before they have any logical reason to understand why. It is as though your unconscious minds are communicating in a language that your conscious minds have not yet learned to translate. And this communication expresses itself as a pattern of coincidences that is so specific, so personal, so impossible to rationalize away that your entire nervous system recognizes it as true before your thinking mind can catch up. Imagine that years ago you lost something deeply meaningful to you, an object that carried weight in your emotional history. Then you meet this person, and casually, without planning, you discover they possess something identical, or they experience the exact same loss with that very object. Or consider that you have had a recurring dream for years, a dream that no one around you could understand, and then you meet this person, and they reveal they have had that same dream repeatedly throughout their life, before they ever knew you existed. This is not probability working in your favor. This is the signature of souls recognizing each other across time and space. But synchronicity is only the beginning. Because two souls can recognize each other through meaningful coincidence and still not be truly meant to be together. They might be meant to meet for a specific season, for a particular teaching that one must give the other, for a transformation that requires both their presence but not necessarily a lifetime of union. True soul connection goes far deeper than synchronicity. It enters into the second sign, a sign that is far more challenging to face, far more demanding of your honesty, far more transformative than simple recognition. The second sign is what Jung termed the integration of the shadow. Every human being carries a shadow, and this shadow is not a distant concept. It is the living, breathing reality of all the parts of yourself that you have learned to hide, to deny, to push down into the depths of your unconscious mind. Your shadow contains your rage, your shame, your hunger for power, your selfishness, your cruelty, your unwillingness to grow, your fear of not being enough. It contains all the qualities that you have decided are unacceptable, unlovable, incompatible with the image you have worked so hard to maintain. And the truth that most people never face is that this shadow, this rejected part of yourself, has tremendous power over your life precisely because you refuse to acknowledge it exists. Most people spend their entire lives projecting their shadow onto others. They find people they can despise, and in that despising, they are actually hating the disowned parts of themselves that they see reflected in that person. They fall in love with partners, and then, after the initial infatuation wears off, they suddenly begin to see all the ways that partner disappoints them, all the ways the partner fails to meet their expectations. And what they are actually seeing is their own shadow, projected onto that innocent person like a psychological film that distorts reality. But when two souls are truly meant to be together, something revolutionary happens instead. Rather than projecting the shadow back and forth, blaming each other for the darkness that actually belongs to each of them individually, these two people begin to do something radically different. They begin to see each other completely. They see the weakness, the fear, the darkness, the selfishness, the parts that each would prefer to hide from the world, and instead of recoiling in disgust, instead of using this knowledge as ammunition, instead of running away, they do the impossible. They choose to stay. They choose to love precisely what the world teaches us to. When another person can see your shadow in its complete nakedness and choose to remain with you, something breaks open inside your chest. The walls that protected your heart also imprisoned it, and suddenly you are encountering unconditional recognition. This is not acceptance that tolerates your darkness while secretly wishing you would change. This is acceptance that understands that your darkness is part of what makes you human, part of what has shaped your wisdom, part of what gives you depth and authenticity. Jung taught that consciousness grows through the integration of the shadow, not through its denial or suppression. When you accept the darkness within yourself, when you stop pretending to be better than you are, when you acknowledge your capacity for harm as well as your capacity for love, something extraordinary happens. You become whole. Not perfect, but whole. And when two people encounter each other at this level of honesty, when they have both done enough inner work to be willing to be seen without masks, the connection that forms is unshakable. This is why two souls that are truly meant to be together will often experience intense conflict in the early stages of their union. They are not conflicting because something is wrong. They are conflicting because they are finally encountering another human being who will not allow them to hide behind their persona, who will not pretend that their shadow does not exist. And this confrontation, painful as it is the beginning of authentic love. It is the moment when love stops being a feeling and starts being a commitment to truth. How do you recognize when this shadow integration is actually occurring, rather than when you are simply in a relationship with someone who tolerates your darkness out of their own codependency? The difference is in the quality of the presence. When someone is truly integrating your shadow, they do not judge you for it. They do not use your darkness as leverage. They do not store it away to use against you in future conflicts. They simply see it, acknowledge it, and continue loving you anyway. And this acceptance is not passive or weak. It is an active choice made repeatedly, consciously, with full awareness of what they are choosing to accept. Two souls that are truly meant to be together will find themselves in conversations that no one else in their lives can handle. They will find themselves discussing the darkness that they hide from the world, the shame that they carry, the fears that drive their worst behaviors. And instead of being met with judgment or abandonment, they will be met with understanding. Not excuses, not enabling, but genuine understanding that says, I see this in you, and I see this same thing in me, and we are both still worthy of love. This is the point where many people confuse the intensity of conflict with the authenticity of the connection. They believe that if a relationship is meant to be, it should feel easy, should feel comfortable, should flow without resistance. But the opposite is true. Relationships between souls that are truly meant to be together often feel more challenging at first precisely because they are demanding more honesty, more vulnerability, more willingness to be seen than you have ever offered anyone before. The third sign, the sign that separates truly aligned souls from those who are simply intense in their connection, is what Jung called individuation. Individuation is the lifelong process of becoming your truest self, of realizing your unique potential, of growing into the fullness of who you actually are rather than who you were taught to be. It is the ultimate purpose of the human life, according to Jungian psychology. Not success, not wealth, not even love, but becoming completely yourself. When two souls are truly meant to be together, they do not limit each other in the process of individuation. They do not need each other to remain small so that they can feel secure. They do not ask each other to suppress their gifts or hide their light or contain their growth. Instead, they do something far more courageous. They encourage the other to become more fully themselves. They see the potential in the other that the other cannot yet see in themselves, and they reflect that vision back until the other person can no longer deny it. This is the point at which love becomes truly transformative. It is no longer about what the other person can do for you or what you can extract from them. It is entirely about what you are both becoming together, how you are each growing through the mirror of the other, how you are each being challenged to expand beyond your previous limitations. When two people enter a relationship with this mutual commitment to each other's individuation, something sacred is being created. They are not staying together because they need each other. They are staying together because they choose to. This distinction changes everything. A relationship built on need is fragile because it is always at risk of dissolution if that need changes or gets met elsewhere. A relationship built on choice is resilient because it is continuously renewed through the free decision of both people to remain present. But understand this clearly. Not all intense connections are soul connections. Not all meaningful coincidences point to destiny. Not all relationships where partners see each other without masks are relationships between souls meant to be together. There are connections that masquerade as depth but are actually codependency dressed up in the language of love. There are relationships where two people have merged so completely that they have lost their individual boundaries and confuse this loss of self with unconditional love. The way to distinguish authentic soul connection from this illusion is through what Jung would have called presence and freedom. In an authentic connection between souls meant to be together, there is a quality of freedom that is unmistakable. There is no desperate clinging. There is no fear-based control. There is no sense that you must manage the other person's emotions to keep them from leaving. Instead, there is a quiet trust that if this person chooses to leave, you will survive it. You will remain whole. You will continue your own process of individuation even without them. This trust is the opposite of what most people mistake for love. Most people believe that true love means being unable to imagine life without the other person. Most people believe that true love means being willing to sacrifice your own growth to maintain the relationship. Most people believe that true love means making yourself smaller so that the other person can feel secure. But Jung would have recognized all of this as a profound misunderstanding of what authentic love actually is. True love between souls meant to be together looks like this. You are each other's greatest mirror. You see in each other your potential and your shadow simultaneously. You are willing to do the inner work necessary to integrate what the other person reflects back to you. You celebrate rather than fear the other person's growth and transformation. You maintain your individual identity and your individual spiritual practice even as you are deepening your connection. You are not afraid of conflict because you trust that the conflict will deepen rather than destroy the bond. When two souls first recognize this connection, there is often a sense of relief so profound that it moves through your body like electricity. It is the feeling of coming home after having been lost for a very long time. It is the feeling of being seen so completely by another human being that you begin to question whether you were actually invisible before. It is the feeling that you no longer have to perform, no longer have to hide, no longer have to maintain the careful facade that you have kept in place for years. But this initial recognition is just the beginning. The true work of two souls meant to be together is the work that follows, the work of consistently choosing each other, of repeatedly integrating each other's shadow, of continuously supporting each other's individuation, even when it would be easier to ask the other person to stay small and comfortable. There are couples who reach this level of connection and discover that their souls are aligned for a specific season of life, for a particular transformation that needed to occur, and then their paths diverge. This is not failure. This is not a sign that the connection was not real. This is simply the natural completion of one cycle and the beginning of another. Jung understood that souls can be meant to be together for a lifetime or for a single encounter that changes everything. The duration does not determine the authenticity, but for those souls that are meant to journey together for an extended period, for those souls that continue to recognize the synchronicity, to integrate the shadow, and to support each other's individuation year after year, the love that emerges is nothing like the love stories you have been taught. It is quieter, more stable, less dramatic. It is also infinitely deeper, infinitely more nourishing, infinitely more capable of sustaining through the inevitable difficulties that all long-term unions face. How do you prepare yourself to recognize a soul connection if you encounter one? The answer is that you must first become a soul connection yourself. You must do the inner work of integrating your own shadow. You must commit to your own individuation. You must develop the capacity to see another person without projection, to love without fear-based control, to maintain your own wholeness while opening to another person's wholeness. When you have done this work, when you have become psychologically mature enough to handle an authentic soul connection, that connection will appear in your life not as an accident, but as an inevitable result of your own consciousness. The synchronicities will begin to appear more frequently. Meaningful coincidences will multiply. You will encounter people who see you as clearly as you have learned to see yourself. And among those people, if you're paying attention, if you have done the preparatory inner work, you will recognize the one or ones with whom your soul is meant to journey. You will know them not through excitement or intensity, but through a quiet recognition, a knowing that occurs without doubt, a certainty that settles into your bones. This is the gift that Jung offers to us through his understanding of synchronicity, shadow integration, and individuation. He reminds us that love is not something that happens to us randomly. Love is something that emerges when two conscious people meet. Love is the natural result of two souls that have each done their own work, that have each faced their own darkness, that have each committed to their own growth, coming together and recognizing in each other the fruits of that commitment. When you experience this kind of connection, you will know it immediately and you will know it deeply. Your nervous system will respond before your thinking mind catches up. Your body will recognize something familiar in this other person, something that resonates at a frequency you have been unconsciously tuned to. And if you have prepared yourself through your own inner work, you will be able to respond to this recognition not from desperation, but from presence. Not from need, but from choice. The three signs then become your compass. When you notice synchronicity, you begin to pay attention. When you observe shadow integration beginning to occur, you know you are encountering something real. And when you see that each of you is committed to supporting the other's individuation, you know that you have encountered a soul connection of the deepest kind. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of meaningful coincidence, revealing the hidden intelligence that operates beneath apparent randomness. Two souls that are truly meant to be together will recognize each other through these signs. They will create a bond that is based not on dependency, but on mutual choice. They will challenge each other toward greater consciousness, greater authenticity, greater wholeness. And whether that journey lasts a lifetime or a season, it will be one of the most transformative experiences either person will ever have. It will change how they love, how they see themselves, how they understand what is possible between human beings. This is the love that Jung was describing when he spoke of the true meeting between two conscious beings. This is the love that matters. This is the love that heals not just the individuals, but also the world around them, because people who have experienced this kind of conscious connection begin to show up differently in all their relationships. They begin to love more authentically. They begin to see more clearly. They begin to live more consciously. If you're seeking this kind of connection, if you are tired of relationships that demand you remain small and unconscious, if you are ready to do the inner work necessary to recognize and respond to a true soul connection, then begin today. Begin with your own shadow integration. Begin with your own commitment to individuation. Begin with becoming the kind of person who can handle the intensity and the intimacy of a truly conscious love. And when you have done this work, when you have prepared yourself, the universe will conspire to bring you together with a soul that is equally prepared, equally conscious, equally committed to the growth and transformation that true love demands. This is not fantasy. This is psychology. This is the actual blueprint of how two souls recognize each other and decide to journey together through this extraordinary human experience we call life.